Today I'm going to be showing you how to take down and replace a broken spring. As you can see right here behind me, we're going to have one broken spring that I put up just for the purposes of this video. A little bit of a closer look at the broken spring right here. As you can see, this one is cleanly split in half. This one is completely solid. We're gonna go over a few things that you need before you get to changing out your spring. These are gonna be the 5 main things that you need to switch out your spring. 1, you're gonna need spring rods. These are very important in taking off and putting tension back on your springs. You're gonna need a 7/16 socket, preferably a 12 point. You're also gonna need a 9/16 socket, preferably a 12 point as well. You can also use a 11mm 12 point or 7/16 12 point ratchet wrench. The other thing you're gonna need is a drill. So to take the tension off of your spring that's not broken, what you're gonna wanna do is you wanna take your tuning rod, you're gonna put it in these holes right here. You can take your 7/16 socket. You wanna take these bolts right here and loosen them up just enough to where the tension comes off that spring and it can move freely. You don't want to take them all the way out and you don't want to leave them too much in. You can damage this rod that they're sitting on, which will make it a lot more difficult to be able to put new springs on. What you're going to do is you're going to put the rods in one after another, let the tension off slowly. You want to go with the force of the spring as you're letting that tension off. Once your tension is completely off, your spring has no more tension on it, it's fine, it moves freely. The next thing that you're gonna wanna do is unbolt your springs from this middle bracket that they sit on. To unbolt these, you're gonna need your 9/16 socket. You can just stick it in. After that, what you're gonna wanna do is take these bolts out. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult. You can take your springs off, help you out, use that pressure a little bit, take these bolts off. After that, you're gonna go back to your 7/16 socket. You're gonna do the same thing you did to the last spring, but because this one is broken, it has no tension on it. So you're gonna loosen up this bolt on here, just enough for this to be able to slide off, and take the other piece and slide them to one side. So now that you've gotten your broken springs off the door, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna find out the measurement of this spring. A lot of times, the springs will have measurements on them, written on them. There's 3 different measurements, one for the size of the coils, one for the thickness of the spring, and then one for the length of the spring. Now, because this isn't the right spring for this door, it's not gonna have the right measurements. There's a couple tools that you can get to get exact measurements. But if you look up the size of your door and what type of door it is, you should be fine. After you've measured your spring and found out what size spring that you need, you can go and get one, have it ordered, or have another technician come and get you one. Once you get that spring, it's the opposite of everything we just did to reinstall it. After you've taken off your broken spring, you're gonna grab a brand new spring that you're gonna use for your door. So you are gonna wanna put your drum back on. After you put your spring back on, then you're gonna take this tube, carefully fit it back through that hole in the end. Then you can move your drum to the side, take your spring, and move it back towards the middle. This is gonna be one of the most important parts about fixing your garage door after you get a broken spring, is gonna be reapplying the tension to your door. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take this drum on your left side, you're gonna tighten it before you do anything else. After you have that drum secured, you're gonna take your cable, you're gonna wrap it around, and you're gonna spin this drum until you find a little notch in it. Once you find that notch, you're gonna put the end of this cable on the outside of that, and the rest of your cable is gonna fit inside the grooves of your drum. What you wanna be careful about and make sure that you're doing is putting your cable directly in the furthest groove away from the inside of your drum. So you're gonna wanna hold it in and make sure that it stays inside of those drums. Once you get it, you're gonna put a little bit of tension on that cable. You can use your hand, or you can use one of your spring sticks that you had before. You can tuck it in these bolts and hold a little bit of pressure right there. Then you're gonna take your vice grips, you're gonna attach them to the tube and push it up against the wall and lock those in. So now the cable is not moving, the drum's not moving, and the tube isn't moving. On the opposite side, you're gonna wanna take your cable, you're gonna wanna put it in the drum before anything else. You're gonna attach it into that little knot, and then you're gonna wrap it around. This is a little bit of a better look at what you want, and making sure that cable stays in those grooves all the way around. Once you get it like that, you're gonna hold some tension on it and then lock it in. So once you get your springs back to where they need to be, you're gonna take them, you're gonna get those two bolts that you had before. You're gonna put one in that top hole and fit it through. You're gonna take your second one and put it through the bottom and fit it through. You're gonna take your nuts and just reattach everything. You're gonna take your 9/16 socket and you're gonna go ahead and re-tighten your bolts. Now we're gonna go ahead and reapply the tension to the two springs. There's a couple of different formulas to do this depending on the size door you have, the weight of the door you have. But on average, what you're gonna wanna do is do one full turn for every foot of your door, which equals to 4 quarter turns. So on this size door, it's a 7-foot door, you're gonna wanna do about 27 turns. So to reapply tension to your springs, to tighten them up, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take your 2 tuning rods, you're gonna wanna put it in the hole, and then you wanna push up. So each one of these is gonna be 1 quarter turn. That's 2, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Now, this can be a very tiring job. It takes a lot of upper body and arm strength to be able to put the tension on these springs. So if you get tired, I would suggest remembering what number you're on, and you can put your rod up against the door, take a break, stretch out your arms a little bit, and then continue on. This is gonna be 25, 26, 27, and 28. So this is the exact number that you're gonna wanna have, but to ensure that you're getting full tension on your door, what we recommend is putting 1 extra turn on it. So you're gonna bump it right up to 29. Once you get it there, you're gonna hold your rod in a place where you can reach, and you're gonna tighten in your bolts to lock it on that tube. Now you're gonna do the same thing to the opposite side. If a bolt is in a difficult place, like where it's at right now, at the back of this spring, this is when your wrench is gonna come in handy to get into places where your socket wouldn't be able to. You can also use a socket wrench, it's up to you. Go ahead and tighten that on, make sure it's nice and secured. And now we're gonna go ahead and test the door. Once you have everything locked in, you wanna check the tension on your cable. And check the tension on this cable. You wanna make sure that your cables are about 80% the same tension. They don't have to be exactly the same, but at least 80% to make sure that your door is rising and closing evenly. So to test it first, you wanna check the tension on these cables right here. Make sure that they're tight and that nothing's loose. Look good. The next thing that you're gonna wanna do is switch your opener into a manual mode so it's not getting caught up. You switch it to manual, and then you can start lifting your door. Just make sure to take off that vice grip, or else it's not gonna allow you to open up the door. When you're checking the tension to make sure you did everything right, you wanna look at these cables on the side just to make sure that they're not going loose on you and that everything was done right. Another way to see if you did your tension right is that every panel that folds up, once it hits the edge of your frame, your door should be able to stay where it's at to the point where it's not falling down and it's not flying up. So as you can see, the door is staying exactly where it is. I'm not touching it. It's just staying where it's at every panel. Alrighty, and now that you've tested everything manually, you're gonna bring your door down and you're gonna test it with your opener. So you can just bring your door down. We're gonna re-engage your opener, and then we're gonna test it. That is how you change your own springs on your garage door. It's about a 30-minute to an hour job. It doesn't take too much. It's not too much manual labor, and it's a good thing to know, especially if you want to own a house long term. But that's it. If you ever need anything, garage door repair is your guy.